Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel. Hit like and subscribe. You're watching the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel.
Peace, family. This is your brother, Marc Lamont Hill. Welcome to Night School. Every night here on the Marc Lamont Hill official YouTube channel, we hold Night School, where we break down the most controversial subjects, the most engaged debates, the most interesting subjects going on in the world today. And tonight is no different. I'm excited to be here. I know it's Saturday night. We normally do this during the week. We don't do weekends, but I wasn't able to have that conversation with you all on Thursday night. So I said, let's do it tonight. Let's have the conversation. That's what night school is. Sometimes you got to have weekend classes. I'm glad to be able to do it. I'm glad to be able to rap to you all tonight. I want to cover a couple of stories that were hot at the end of the week, and they still seem to matter. So we're going to cover them. Also, I'm happy to do some live Q&A. So if you have a live question for me, I have a live answer for you. All you got to do is drop something in the super chat, and I will make sure that the question gets answered. It can be a question. It can be a confrontation. It could be whatever you want it to be. I'll make sure I take something. Let's make it happen. But before we do that, let's get started with the actual content for this evening. And the first thing is your boy Donald Trump once again. A Trump-aligned Justice Department they really just said that ending desegregation is part of, quote, getting America refocused. That's right. This week, the DOJ dropped a decades-old desegregation order in a Louisiana school district, claiming that racism in education is over. And that federal oversight, it's just paperwork now. Plaquemines Parish is the place where this is happening. Or Plaquemines Parish. I don't know if it's French like Plaquemines or if it's Plaquemines. I don't speak French, as you can tell. So anyway, it's a small, mostly black area where court-ordered integration dates back to 1966. Officials say the case was inactive. The judge who issued it is dead, and the whole file is, quote, lost to time. Folks in power now say that these orders are a burden. Civil rights leaders say this move signals something else, a push to erase the fight for justice and act like the problem's already fixed. When the government starts rolling back protections for black children in schools, that's not about saving time. It's about saving face. Saving face for a system that never wanted to really be changed. This is not just about Louisiana. It's not just about schooling, although it's about those things, and we need to talk about that. But it's about a Trump administration that is aggressively attempting to upend, to dismantle, to destroy every single advance that has been made in the last 6 decades, if not more. Now, I understand some of you out there are like, desegregation or integration wasn't a victory. Well, we can have that conversation, and there are certainly many negative aspects, or at least there are at least aspects of desegregation and integration that were not the same, which aren't as romantic and idyllic as we'd like to think. But I do know that having books in our schools, I do know that being legally denied access to the schools that have the books in them weren't good things. And I know that what Trump is attempting to do is recreate a playing field where it's not even pretending to be leveled. And it's recreating an educational environment where students don't have access to the most basic and fundamental needs and the most basic and fundamental spoils of democratic citizenship. You're supposed to have this stuff. So watching them do this is tricky, and to do it through the language of completion, that is to say, we're done. We finished. There's no more racism in schools. There's no more racism in education. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? That's the narrative. And that narrative is quite dangerous. It's quite dangerous. So we have to kind of figure out what to do. And I think rather than think about this as Louisiana problem, And rather than thinking about this as a state-by-state problem, we have to start to think more broadly about what it would look like in the context of education. Think about constitutional protections around education, to frame education as an inalienable right, as opposed to just the hookup. We also have to think about how to organize against Trump. And I think one of the things that we have to do, I've been writing 2 books for the last year or 2. And another one of the books, I've talked about the abolition book, but the other one is dealing with this question of education and the right's takeover of education. A big way that the right has taken over education has been state by state, brick by brick, wall by wall, just kind of building up a movement through local action, local intervention, playing the long game. Because they played the long game, we got to do the same thing. And when I say we, I don't mean Democrats. I mean those of us who believe in freedom and those of us who are going to resist the right. What I think of as the left, but the left and the Democratic Party ain't the same thing. So that is that. Anyway, something happened on TV the other day, and I don't cover CNN very often for obvious reasons, but this was baffling to me. Let's talk about it. So the gloves came all the way off on CNN the other night. It started as a debate about Donald Trump's deportation policies, and it turned into a full-blown war of identity politics when Ana Navarro made a statement that was wild at best. I want you to check it out. Hear what happened, and you tell me what you think, because Lord, this was something else.
And letting people walk into here without any process at all, and now you're trying to gum up the works to keep them here.
A lot of them came in. A lot of them came in with parole. A lot of them came in.
CNN polling shows 54% of Americans want Mr.
November
Rodrigo
polling
Garcia
showed Donald
back.
Trump won the
That's
election.
CNN polling.
November polling
is shifting.
All right.
We are a sovereign nation, and you cannot just come into our
All right.
country illegally whenever the heck you want, because we can't do it to any other country on the face of
Asylum
this
is
earth.
a legal
If
right.
you come in illegally, you have to leave. Americans are tired of that. We do not have unlimited
You
resources.
know who was here
We have to
illegally
care
with a
for our own people
deportation order?
first.
Marco Rubio's
Okay,
grandfather.
all right, let's.
We're not talking about
let's-
Marco
Oh,
Rubio.
now we're not? Now that's
No,
not relevant?
it's not
No,
relevant.
I'm talking
It's not
about
relevant
Marco
to this
Rubio because Marco
conversation at
Rubio
all.
used to be an advocate for TPS for Venezuelans, and Marco Rubio used
Well,
to
I'm
be
not Marco
an
Rubio.
advocate
and
for
let me
Nicaraguans
tell you
and
my
Cubans.
beliefs.
No,
If
I
you
know
come
you're
into
not.
this country illegally, you are going home. Simple as
Okay.
that. We do not
Listen,
have unlimited
I
resources
think
in
a
this
lot of
country
Americans-
to take care of other
There's
people.
a hell
We
of a
have
lot
our
of
own
people,
people
other than the
first,
black
Anna.
people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally.
They're
From a
not
lot
the
of
same as
different-
black people who were brought here against
That's
our will.
exactly what I
They
just said.
decide
I
to
said
walk
there is
their
a
butts
lot of
across the
people.
border. There's
Other
a big
than the
difference.
black
There is
people.
a big
That's
difference.
Hold on.
exactly what I
There's a
just
big
said.
difference.
That's
Share Michael,
exactly what I just
share
said,
Michael
Sir Michael.
and
Look and act indignant. That's
Okay.
exactly what
It's
I
not
just
about
said.
acting
I-
indignant.
Yes, it is.
let me
You
just
just heard me
share
say
Michael.
that other than the black
Anna
people
and
who
share
came
Michael,
as
please.
slaves, there are a lot of people from
Share
many,
Michael. I
many
think you
countries
actually
that came
misheard
here
what she.
illegally.
I think you misheard what she said.
No, he purposely misheard it.
She said.
I purposely
She-
yes,
misheard
she
it.
did.
So now you're in my
Share
brain.
Michael. Listen to me for
Is
just a
that
second.
where we're going?
You
Share
think
Michael.
I would
Listen to me
say,
for a
I who
second.
have advocated
Anna,
for black
please
people
stop.
my entire life would
Anna,
say something like that?
Anna,
Give me a
Because
damn
you've
break.
advocated for black
Anna,
people,
please
great.
stop.
Congratulations. Last time I checked, I'm black. You're not.
Okay, share Michael.
That's right. I'm Latino and my people are being racially
It is-
profiled.
it is-
and
And do I have to
unfairly
remind you the history of my people?
Share
If
my-
you
I
want
have
to
to
go
read-
there?
no, I
Did you
don't.
really
Okay,
want to go
we're
there?
gonna
and
go to
never
break.
had
know the
one?
history.
Raul,
You're
we're going to go to
kidding me.
break.
You know
Raul
why?
Reyes,
Because
thank you
history
very much for
was
joining us.
history.
Everybody
History
else,
was
hang tight.
History was not
We'll be right back.
race when I was studying history.
Woo! I'm gonna pause there. I don't feel envious of the job Abby had there to try and deal with that that exchange, let's just say. What happened? So what I heard her say was there's a hell of a lot of other people. There's a hell of a lot of other people other than the black people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally, right? There's a hell of a lot of other people other than the black people who were brought here as slaves who came to this country illegally. It's a very messy sentence. Shermichael Singleton, the black Republican gentleman you saw, a CNN political contributor, heard her or misheard her. And it's probably the way it was phrased. But it escalated. And he was trying to check her for what he heard, which was sort of that black people came here illegally. she was saying she didn't say that and that he purposely misheard her, that he was acting in bad faith, and they had this kind of scream off. It's interesting because Shermichael is a Black Republican and not a particularly extremist one. He's not like Paratinar was or some of the other hardcore right wingers. And Ana Navarro, from what I can see, has moved further and further to the left or the center. I'm not sure if she even, I don't know how she identifies politically. I don't want to make an assumption. But what I will say is that they seem to be in the same zone. Obviously, they disagree on immigration. And I think, again, the identity, ethnic and racial identity that each of them holds, it probably shapes a little bit how they talk and think about this, and certainly how they were cast. If you're a cable news company and you got a Black Republican saying, no, keep these immigrants out, and you have a white Latina saying, it's more complicated than that, it's a hell of a good TV. It's a hell of a good TV exchange. So I understand why they're on there. But it got nasty. Ana Navarro then said, hey, I've been an advocate for Black people my whole life. It gets messy. And Shermichael pulled the big joker. Said, look, I'm Black and you're not. Let's not talk too much about this race stuff at the level of Blackness. And it's fascinating because Black Republicans sometimes got that chip on their shoulder too, like y'all think I ain't Black because I'm a Republican. But I'm curious to know how you all heard that. I'm curious to know what you thought she said, and when you heard it, were you offended? Or offended or not, did you hear it as her saying something negative against Black people? To me, it's about comma usage and about confusion. I think it wasn't particularly clear what she was saying, but I don't think she was trying to say Black people came here illegally. And if anything was illegal about Black people coming here, it was the enslavement that should have been legal, not our being here. We weren't the problem. So I think this is one of those things that just got out of hand. But the media the next day made it seem like it was just a blood sport, just a nasty, ugly, knockdown, drag-out battle because Ana Navarro said slaves came illegally. I don't think anybody reasonable, even unreasonable, would say that enslaved Africans coming here was a problem of illegality. Because one, it wasn't illegal. If you start in the 17th century, I mean, what laws would we be following? And if you're basing it on the logics of the day, which were largely Enlightenment logics, human continent didn't think Negroes were human beings. So there was no law. I mean, there just wasn't no law to make it. So it wouldn't make sense logically. And I don't see how it would help her argument. It seemed to me that Ana Navarro it seemed to me that she was saying there's a lot of illegal people here, excluding Black people. That's what I heard her say. That's what I heard her trying to say. Again, she did not say it clearly. And I understand why Shermichael heard what he heard. But the things escalated so quickly, there was no space to really push back or to really have a good faith conversation. So I'm going to chalk this one. I'm not going to pile on. I'm not going to pile on. Unless there was, he's selling out. Every time I don't agree with the dominant crowd, people say I'm selling out. I'm going to say this was a case of confusion, a case of miscommunication. And at the end of the day, regardless of what either of them meant, the problem of immigration is the thing we gotta talk about. But that got nasty. I hope Shermichael and Ana had an opportunity to talk to each other and deal with that, because they don't seem like they're gonna be friends after this. And I don't care at a certain level, but anyway, let's move on to one more story, and then I'll take some Q&A from you. Diddy rejects a plea deal. That's right. Sean Combs, also known as Diddy, also known as P. Diddy, also known as Puff Daddy, also known as Love. Also known as Puff Daddy, if I didn't say that one. Diddy is rolling the dice on a trial. That's right. Diddy is rolling the dice on a trial that could lock him up for life. In federal court this week, Sean Diddy Combs formally rejected a plea that would have cut down his prison time. The rap mogul is headed to trial May 5th on a stack of charges of racketeering, sex trafficking, forced prostitution, and more. And the feds say he ran a whole criminal enterprise that exploited women through so-called freak-offs, causing years of physical, emotional, and sexual abuse. Now, Diddy came to court smiling in a beige jail suit. He's allowed to wear what he wants during trial. I'm curious to know what his fashion choices will be. Do you look subdued? Do you look measured? Do you wear like Diddy pinstripes like back in the day? Do you wear a solid navy or gray or black suit? Let's see what he does. I'm interested. I think it's going to be very, very conservative. But anyway, a federal judge also ruled that the infamous hotel surveillance footage that shows Diddy kicking and dragging Cassie Ventura in 2016 will be played in court. His team tried to block it now, and they said it was edited, but the jury, they're going to see it. And here's the kicker. Diddy's lawyer says his defense is basically, quote, he's a swinger. That's the move. His legal team says that Diddy has a wild sex life, that includes hiring prostitutes. And it was part of a consensual, common, they use the word lifestyle. It's not a bad argument. Diddy ain't got a lot to work with. But the feds, they got a good argument too. And they say otherwise. They are going to bring in 20 witnesses, possibly including victims who want to testify anonymously. Prosecutors are also fighting to introduce evidence about a mystery medical procedure that allegedly shows the control Diddy had over at least one victim. The judge hasn't ruled on that yet, but asked point blank, was that procedure a result of sex trafficking? The prosecutor said yes. That's going to be a hell of an argument they're going to have to make. I don't know if they can do it. We'll find out. But Combs is facing mandatory minimums of 15 years. Oof. He could get up to life, though, if he's convicted. His legal team is worried that media coverage could tank his shot at a fair trial. But the judge made it very clear. This one is going to move forward. Jury selection starts on Monday. That's May 5th. And opening arguments are set to start on May 12th. This is going to be a hell of a trial. Certainly the biggest celebrity trial we've seen this century, maybe, right? I can't think of another one bigger. There's some other big ones, but this could be huge. Now, it's federal court, and you're not going to have all the big cameras, and we're not going to get the OJ coverage. But the court reports, if you thought Megan Cunliffe was busy with Tory Lanez, imagine what you're going to see with this. It's going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to watch. But Diddy is basically making an argument that just because I have a lot of sex and it's wild sex, it's unconventional, it doesn't make it illegal, certainly doesn't make it immoral. Or maybe you might say, doesn't make it immoral, but definitely doesn't make it illegal. He doesn't care so much about the moral argument. But the feds are saying, no, it's more than just that. You're not just a freak boy. You got some other stuff going on. And that's the stuff that we're worried about. Diddy tried to say, look, I got high all the time. I got so high that I didn't have mens rea, that I didn't have a criminal mind. Basically, Diddy saying he was so high that he didn't have any kind of criminal intent. And so therefore, almost like his drug use becomes exculpatory. It's a hell of an argument. And when I say a hell of an argument, I don't mean I'm not applauding the argument. I'm saying like that's a tough argument to make. Interesting is all I can say. Diddy is also struggling with this videotape. The Cassie videotape does not look good. So if you add the Cassie tape, you got the weak drug argument, which hasn't, which they were trying to introduce as a way of kind of not having to go through trial for certain things. They said the tape was edited, a way of not getting that into trial. There's just so many things that Diddy doesn't have working for him. He says the media coverage is going to stop him from getting a fair trial. I'll tell you one thing, it's going to be media coverage. I'm not sure Diddy is wrong. I'm not sure that Diddy is wrong. Bullet the Bunny, by the way, writes in and says, and happy Saturday to you, Bullet. She said, I will put $10 when he's acquitted and making music by 2028. I'll take that bet, Bullet. $10. I'll take that bet for sure. Because I think he's going to be convicted. He could be making music, but he's definitely going to be convicted. How long? I don't know. But he's definitely, that's why we have to talk about the terms of the debate. If you say, if the bet is whether he's acquitted or not, I'll take the $10. I'll say he absolutely will not be acquitted. But I don't know how long he'll be locked up, and I don't know how many charges he's going to take. And I'm not rooting based on, or not rooting. I'm not making a determination based on anything other than what I see, evidence-wise. The world thinks Diddy's guilty. The world is making jokes about it. The world is expressing outrage about it. The world is traumatized by it. For more than a year, we've heard nothing but Diddy talk. And because of that, I think the world does presume his guilt. I think the world, particularly the people who are most likely to be in jury polls, but I don't know anybody. I don't know a lot of people that think Diddy ain't do it. There's people who might not care. There's people who might not be outraged by it, but they absolutely think he did it. So I don't know how you beat that if the whole world knows that. But the thing is, what are you going to do? You can't like not convict him because of that. I mean, you can't not have a trial because of that. You can't change the venue. Diddy's a stranger to no one. There's nothing you can do but just try to have a very rigorous voir dire process, you know, very rigorous process of second the jury and having to exclude jurors who don't demonstrate the capacity to be objective. We can talk about that another time. And against the backdrop of that, I don't know what else you can do, which means Diddy's in a lot of trouble. He's in a lot of trouble. And I think some of the people who would have stood up, who would have defended him, who would have offered testimony that would be favorable to Diddy, I think a lot of them people disappeared. They got quiet. Now, again, we'll find out more. Open the argument start. But this is going to be a doozy. It's going to be, I mean, Young Thug was interesting, but the world doesn't care about Young Thug across every gender, race, ethnic line like they do Diddy. Young Thug was important to us, but this Diddy trial is going to be important to all of America, and that's going to make this thing crazy. So, yep, that's that. All right, family. Let's I said I would take some Q&A. So if someone has a question, I will answer it. I don't see any questions, which is crazy. I'm giving y'all live Q&A, and y'all like, no. Hungry, you turn your nose up at my peas and rice. That's what it's part of an Asada poem. Everything you love is of a different world. Hungry, you turn your nose up at my peas and rice. I think that's what it is. Yeah. From Asada's biography. I love that. Anyway, I don't see any questions, so we'll call it a night. Everybody, thank you for watching. I'll be back soon. Probably back tomorrow with a live Q&A. This is live, by the way. And I do see, I did not watch Ethan versus Hassan. I got your note about it, though. I wish I could have moderated it, but there was no way I could have made that happen. All right, family. I don't see any super chats. I'm going to call it a night. Saturday night, I'm going to actually try to eat and sleep for once. And I will see y'all later. Peace.